Second.
Yeah, it's going now. All right. Well, Rob, welcome and congratulations on being given the award of the Distinguished Service Award. It's quite an honor. It's well deserved. It's long time coming. It's too bad that you can't be with us, but we love the background that you've got, and it looks really nice there versus what it's like here in our area. As we kick this off, we just really wanted to ask some questions, and for those of you those volunteers that obviously a lot of people know you. I would say 90% of our volunteers that know you, but we want to start just by asking, well, one, how many years have you been volunteering for? And exactly, do you remember the year that you started volunteering?
Yes, I do remember how many years and how and when I first started. And I want to first of all thank you for giving me this award. It's very nice, but as you know, it doesn't come alone. All the volunteers and the help you guys have given backs up these things. You don't do 35 years for being punished. It's fun to do with people who become your family. So the first start was in I believe the very first week in June before school is out. We had the Peter Jacobson Invitational at Forest Hills, and that was my first tournament. And I had just been recruited by Jim Cowan, the original director, from 1990, after taking a rules class with the USGA, a seminar at Portland Airport. And he tapped me on the back and said, "What do you do in the summers?" And of course, I was a teacher then, and I said, "I don't do very much. I've got summers off. I do some soccer camps and things." But he said, "Well, I'd like you to come and consider joining us and work in this tag tournament administration group." And that was my first one at Forest Hills.
Okay. Well, what inspired you or motivated you to want to get into volunteering with the OGA or just volunteering in golf? Because I know you're a big soccer guy, and I know that you played a lot of soccer. Um, you know, so what inspired you to want to volunteer with golf?
I think the first thing that inspired me to get into rules was I had been for about 7 years the uh, golf coach at Benson High School. Now that's a stretch in a term. It's more like a golf chaperone because most of the coaches were just the baseball coach or the basketball coach or somebody who'd been pulled out of the library to coach. And unfortunately, after about 7 years, I knew just a little bit more than them, and they were horrible with the rules, and it was getting really bad. And the school district required each coach to go into an improvement program. So I thought, perfect opportunity. I'll go and get a piece of paper that says you've been to a rules class, and now we won't stand there arguing on the veranda of whatever golf course we were playing with our school teams. And hence I went. And as I've often said to many people, the very first thing I learned in that first class, I knew nothing. But I did know that the other coaches knew less. And so from that point, probably about 15 more seminars I've been to, we're finally getting to a point where I think I'm reasonably good, and I'm only as good as the team I work with.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you're pretty good. I would say you're really good. So how has volunteering really impacted your life personally? I mean, what treasures do you have from volunteering over the years?
Well, in terms of impact, it's very similar to any good group of people that you go and join, whether it's the gym or the CrossWeight Club or a soccer club or a football, basketball, you build yourself a second family. You build a group of people that you're comfortable with, they work with you, you enjoy being with them. And so knowing that you're part of a group that's respected, and our tag team, as you probably are well aware, very respected from other states. We get to hear it a lot at the Hogan Cup. And yeah, I think that was the main reason that I joined this group. I felt that it was time that I gave back to a sport that I enjoyed. I wasn't a great golfer, never have been, but I always felt that if you want to get something really good out of a deal, then you need to put something back in it. And that's been pretty much my reason. I ran track, I coached track, I played soccer, I coached soccer, I played golf, and although I don't coach golf because most of the players were better than me, I did guide them carefully to doing the right thing on the golf course.
Do you have, so out of all the years that you've been volunteering, is there one specific memory that you have that, like, share a story with us about one of your experiences?
Well, a couple come to mind. The first was the first junior tournament that we had at Heron Lakes. We had Jim Cowan was the director and Charlotte was the junior tournament director. And Jim was new and wanted to impress everybody. And so he said, I'll put the tent up over the scoring. I'll put the tent up for the scoring table. At that time, we didn't have the very convenient press button, click, pull out legs that we have today. And so it had guy ropes from the corners and you had to put a stake in the ground. So Jim got the tent up in position. I think it was probably the first or the second stake, started hammering in the ground just outside the pro shop at Heron Lakes. And he put the spike through a water line. It came up in the air about 12, 15 feet up in the air. And here he was flustering, wondering whether to put his foot on it, sit on it, over it. And probably the piece de resistance was the look on Charlotte's face as she sat back from that, looked at it, and it had that I am not impressed look, which even more funny, when somebody can't laugh and you stop laughing and you laugh more. Well, we were all in tears. It was quite funny to see Jim Cope. So of course, obviously maintenance had to come down, shut the water off and dig a hole by the scoring table.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. And I can totally relate. I can certainly see Charlotte's face. That just sort of like determined grimace, that face. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You've been around for a long time, and I'm assuming you've seen a lot of changes, both our organization and just our community as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts and share your thoughts on the different changes and how you've seen those shaped over time.
That's true. Well, probably in the administration side, you've been with the crew almost as long as anybody that I've worked with. I'm not sure the year you started. What year was it? It was
2005.
2005. Okay, so at 2005 up until now, that's 20 years we've seen it together. So we know some of these things. We've had 5 directors, as I can recall, since 1990 when I first started. And during that period of time, the growth of the tournament administration group just grew and grew. There was probably half a dozen of us at the beginning. Don Cowitz, the famous Don, I'm tending to forget most of the names as you do when you get to my age, but I have them all written down and I often look at those names. We had a gentleman from Forest Hills, who was a teacher, or actually he was an administrator in teaching, Ray Carter.
Ray Carter. Mm-hmm.
And he was my other mentor, great
Mm-hmm.
fellow. Don Ferring and
Mm-hmm.
John Balmat started. This is a lot of people. Unfortunately, they've all passed away. But those people realized straight away that we just couldn't cope with about 5 guys to do all these tournaments, and they were getting very close to the end of their ability to come out and work. And so we started bringing in people, the Dave Siegels and the
Mm-hmm.
people that helped us at the golf courses, the pace of play people, spotters, and quite honestly, it grew exponentially. From 15, I don't know how many volunteers there are today. There's seems like multiple new faces that I don't know each time. I always try to go around and say hi and introduce myself. And as this is going out, apparently to the dinner later, yeah, if I don't mention your name, all you wonderful people out there eating dinner, it's because I haven't met you yet.
Well, you are right. You and I have done this together for a long time, and I have so many wonderful, fond memories of the times I've spent with you. I joke that like I don't know that I've ever, like in my entire lifetime, and granted, 20 years makes up a good portion of that time, have I ever spent with so many English people, right? Like actually from England, and so it's kind of a treasure and fun because whatever you say, I tend to tell my kids, right? Like, oh, you're a big West Ham fan. So my son plays a little soccer, so I can relate to him all of that. And so, but realistically, I mean, it's there's so many wonderful times that, whether we've traveled to Tokati or whether we've, been on the golf course when it's pouring down rain, or whatever it looks like, it's been a whirlwind and wonderful, and just so many wonderful experiences that we've shared. I know, and I'm thankful that you're not necessarily hanging it all up, just slowing it down a little bit more over these years, which is great. You know, not the 15-hour days like you've done in the past. How's that?
Yes,
Um, but I think, there's we only give this award to certain people, and it's not just about longevity and how long you've been doing this. It's how you've really impacted the association, Rob. And I think that you are one that's really impacted the OGA in a very positive way and a very meaningful way. As a start with the tag team, your time starting and your professionalism and what you have done with us is really the reasons why that you're being honored with this award. So, I miss our favorite crews of you, Don Coates, maybe bring in Craig Winter, and we would have, Steve Hagan, Cliff Chavez. It's just a wonderful crew of people. So, for me, thank you for what you've done. Um, do you have any other, do you have any advice for volunteers, as, whether they're inspiring to be rules officials or they're inspiring to be just work with us and the OGA? What advice do you give to the next generation of volunteers?
well, it's quite a deep question. What would I recommend? Probably the first thing I would recommend is view everybody on the team as a team, a consultant to work with. Um, Under pressure, people talk about rules as being 3 minutes of total terror wrapped around 14 hours of almost plain boredom. And I think when you suddenly get to a situation where something's different, um, that's when you have to really back up and remember it's not me, we're a team. hook up with your other marshals, because somebody who's bored back on hole number 4 has a clearer mind. He's not panicking. He's not looking at disasters or perhaps making a poor ruling. But it is a team. It's a whole team, and they will back you all the way. So don't be afraid to get on that phone and just say, I have a situation here. Do you concur, or do you have any advice? And I'm sure you'll get all the help you want from that. That would be probably my working advice. The other advice is be as prompt as you can, offer to help where you can and when you can, and it's not done till it's done. Help everybody, meet everybody, have everybody know that you're a team working.
That's wonderful advice. That's really wonderful advice. I'm going to package that and just bottle it and send it out, because that's just great advice. If you could sum up volunteering experience in one word, what would that be, and tell us why?
I think for the most part, I feel volunteering is an opportunity to be entertained by good golf is one. We certainly get that. In the junior ranks especially, the joy you get of being a teacher. As you know, I taught for 28 years, and that same feedback doesn't come in a bowl of fruit or an instant thank you, but you see how other players or other people respond to what they've learned from you in the past. When you see somebody that you sort of begrudgingly said, I'm afraid you violated the general rule, and that's 2 strokes, and but we can save you from being DQ'd by correcting it now. You did the right thing to ask, and etc. And I think that the joy of seeing them come up 2 or 3 weeks later and say, hey, thanks very much. I got through. I passed that, and I've now taken that to heart. I helped somebody else. And I always looked at Don Cowitz in that. Don was somebody that could hand out a penalty and have somebody say thank you, not the process.
Yeah, Don was wonderful.
It's the attaboy feedback that you get from people you meet.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Another example of the sort of thing. If ever a friend of both of ours, David Jacobson, is on the course, bless that man, he walks across the course and says, thanks for coming today. Yeah. And that's a great ability to be able to see that everybody that you recognize is there and has put out some time, and go across, say hi to them. I like to try and do that with every spotter who sat in the woods for about an hour and a half, that's desperate to talk to somebody, and they do a very important job. If they weren't there, things would run slower.
Yeah, that's great advice, and great words of wisdom. Thank you. Just in closing, Rob, congratulations on this award. Congratulations on so many wonderful years of volunteering with the OGA and impacting it so positively, and being such a wonderful part of what we do here. I mean, yeah, it's great that you did it for the attaboys and a lot of it, but you did it you did it day in, day out a lot. And I'm grateful for you and what I learned from you over the years, and I know a lot of the people that around us have as well. So the floor is yours. Tell us anything you'd like. And congratulations again.
Well, the one thing I would like to follow up with, the last thing, is that if it wasn't for my wife and my 2 daughters backing me all the way, I probably wouldn't have made it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.